MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred proceeded to step on his own dick once again by saying the Oakland A's reverse boycott didn't change a decade of inaction. That is wrong, and it is rich from someone who let a franchise spend years losing games on purpose and then cheat its way to winning a World Series. Now, let's talk about the Houston Astros. Can we please talk about the Houston Astros? I've been dying to talk to you about the Houston Astros. Before we jump into that, a little disclaimer. I don't have an issue with what the franchise did by and large. Look, it wasn't particularly moral, but the wins still count. It's not like we're talking about Andre the Giant handing Ted DiBiase the WWF title. Houston's championship is very real, and no one is going to ever take that away from the franchise. You can disagree with the sentiment and make a strong case against it, but that's just how I see it. What we need to discuss, though, is how Houston got to that point in time, how they went to becoming a championship contender. You see, from 2009 to 2014, the Stros lost nearly 600 ball games. At no point during this time was there any attempts by the franchise to field what would be considered a remotely competitive team. It was a blight on baseball and MLB as a whole. What the A's have spent a season and a half doing, Houston did for 6 consecutive seasons. And what did Bud Selig and others in charge of Major League Baseball do at this time? They let it happen. The standard set is literally that owners don't have to try to win games or be a form of entertainment, and if fans and cities don't like it, well, tough titties. The league is more than happy to relocate its special brand of Three-Card Monte to some other town. There is a subplot here that has to be addressed. During this stretch of putrid, awful baseball in Houston, no one from the city supported the team like whatsoever. Nor should they have been expected to. Look, if the franchise wasn't going to try to win games, why should fans be expected to care? Interestingly, those pesky Oakland A's and their dilapidated Coliseum actually outdrew the Houston Astros in 2012, 2013, and 2014. In full disclosure, it must be said, both franchises were in the bottom third of attendance for baseball. That being said, one franchise was playing in a relatively new stadium, while the other was toiling away in a purposely neglected facility. No prizes for guessing which situation belongs to which franchise. However, Houston's issues and problems, well, they weren't simply attendance related. No one, actually, literally no one, was watching their local broadcasts. The Cosby Show reruns were actually bringing in more viewers than the Astros. Now, I suppose in Houston's defense, this was before the Cosby allegations became widespread, but still, not a great look. At this point in time, let's pause and take a moment to recap everything so far. The Houston Astros were purposely trying to lose games that caused attendance to tank, and no one was watching their games on television. What did Rob Manfred's former boss Bud Selig do about all of this? That is correct, nothing. The commissioner did absolutely nothing about any of this. You could argue the only thing Selig did do was teach Rob Manfred about inaction. Today, countless teams now copy the Astros' tanking technique with varying degrees of success. And sometimes the goal isn't even to field a competitive franchise one day down the road. As we're seeing with the Oakland A's, John Fisher made his team terrible on purpose in order to move his franchise. Somewhat incredulously, Manfred has tried to claim that tanking doesn't happen in Major League Baseball. Who can forget this gem of a quote from the game's leader? This narrative that our teams are not trying is just not supported by the facts. Every single team wants to win. It may look a little different to outsiders, the way people think about the game, the way a winning team is put together. That doesn't mean teams are not trying. Dude, Rob Manfred, you cannot be serious. Get out of here with that noise. At no point during the 6-year stretch of terrible Astros baseball were they actually trying to win during that season. And since then, Manfred has let numerous teams follow Houston's lead by losing games on purpose and chasing away fans in the process. Look, just because Manfred wasn't in charge when it originally happened doesn't mean it doesn't exist or that you aren't letting it continue to take place under your watch. As for those very Stros, it was only after purposely losing all of those games and collecting draft picks and assets and what have you that they eventually try to win. And of course, they also did so by stealing signs and cajoling their way to a World Series victory. The only thing here that's really not supported by facts is anything Rob Manfred has said or claimed. You really want to talk about inaction, Rob Manfred? Let's talk about inaction. Why has your inaction caused Major League Baseball to fall further and further behind the NFL and NBA? Why is it that every decision you seem to make doesn't seem to be in the game's best interest, but only the interest of you and your sports owners? At no point has MLB made a decision that benefits players, fans, or other stakeholders apart from the 1%ers in ownership. Okay, that's not entirely true. Pitch clocks, they've been a pretty good idea. But even that was implemented in the most ham-fisted way imaginable. I fully understand the reality that all sports owners want from their commissioner is the freedom to do whatever the hell they want without any repercussions. Manfred's actions and words are a smokescreen for the awful behavior of his bosses. But for the commissioner of baseball to go after fans for their inaction when he is guilty of some of the most severe violations of inactivity would be laughable if it wasn't so unbelievably frustrating. If the commissioner's office is willing to allow teams to spend 6 years losing on purpose, not to mention allowing other franchises to follow that blueprint of failure, fans and cities deserve the same leeway. And they certainly shouldn't be asked to fork over their hard-earned money for a new stadium. Of course, it doesn't and will likely never happen that way. And if we're being honest, Rob Manfred seems more than content with the special place in hell he's seemingly carved out for himself. But for anyone pissing on Oakland A's fans or the town as a whole, here's a real question for you. What would have happened had Houston Astros ownership demanded a new stadium be built during their 6-year tankapalooza? How would that have gone down? You can sit there and say, well, that's just a hypothetical, and you're right, but it brings up a bigger point in play. It's always easier to blame fans and cities and even the players for the shortcomings of a ball club. But at the end of the day, we all know, in reality, the buck stops at the top, and that is with the owners. You can sit there and say Oakland doesn't deserve the A's, but what happens when teams don't deserve the cities they're in? Why are there no repercussions for that? Why are they allowed to proceed with inaction? I don't know, Rob Manfred. I guess the ball is in your court. That does it for me. I'm Cheyenne Hollis. This is the Touchback. And as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.